Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. Let us begin. Well, Francois Afrique, which symbolizes the enduring bond between France and its former African colonies, characterized by intricate political, economic, and military connections, has been a relationship criticized for perpetuating neocolonialism, manifest through multifaceted cooperations and intervention by France in the affairs of its African ex-colonies. Well, similarly, the Franco-Cameroon hegemony delineates France's historical dominance over La République du Cameroun, once a French Cameroon. This hegemony spans political, economic, and cultural domains, constraining Cameroon's autonomy and impeding independent decision making. Recent events, such as the bilateral development agreement between France La République du Cameroon's colonial administration underscores France's continued influence, particularly evident in infrastructural projects like the one they just signed in Bamenda. However, this influence extends beyond mere development initiatives, raising questions about France's interference in territories not historically under its colonial rule, notably Ambazonia, a region embroiled in conflict with La République du Cameroon's central government. Such intervention provoked concerns of recolonization and assimilation, challenging Ambazonia's sovereignty and exacerbating tensions. Well, in this context, understanding why France disregards the sovereignty of its former colonies becomes imperative as it continues to wield influence and shape the destiny of nations beyond its borders. Now, the recent development agreement between France and La République du Cameroon, particularly focusing on infrastructural projects like the one in Bamenda, underscores the enduring influence France has over nations like La République and its development endeavors. Well, this agreement serves as a stark reminder of the entrenched Franco-Cameroonian hegemony, where France's historical grip extends beyond political and economic realms to shape infrastructure and urban development policies. However, amidst this backdrop of bilateral cooperation lies a darker narrative, the plight of Ambazonia, a region that is ensnared within the confines of La République du Cameroon, which in turn is held in the grasp of France's influence. The question arises, why is France meddling in the governance of southern Cameroons, specifically in Bamenda, a focal point of the ongoing conflict initiated by Paul Biya's administration? Why? Well, delving deeper, one discerns France's potential ulterior motive, perhaps seeking to commander La Republic's strategy in the Amazonian conflict under the guise of infrastructural development. The palpable frustration amongst Ambazonians towards the perceived lack of assertiveness from colonial influence ministers reflects their apprehension towards France's encroachment on their rights and their territory. Amazonians view the ambassador's advocacy, the French ambassadors to be precise, advocacy for decentralization as a veiled attempt by France to subjugate and assimilate the nation of Amazonia, eroding its distinct identity and governance structure. Well, this interference raises pertinent questions as southern Cameroon's Amazonia never fell under the French colonial rule, nor was it governed as a United Nations trusteeship territory. But thus, France's involvement in Ambazonia's socio-economic and political landscape defies historical precedents and legal frameworks, casting a shadow over the sovereignty of the nation of Amazonia. Well, more of that we'll get in the full briefings of Undaunted tonight, but first, let's get the prime headlines.
Here are the prime headlines for tonight. Attempted assault on a mother raises cultural concerns in Ambazonia. This is because a Bamenda University student's unthinkable attempt to harm his mother sparks debate over cultural influence from La Republic to Cameroon. Four colonial gendarmes were neutralized over the weekend at the Battle of Rhythm in Mbiame in Bui County. Oppressed Ambazonian-born military personnel in La Republic to Cameroon responsible for the Duala military kidnaps and ransom takings of Ambazonian refugees in Duala. Most importantly tonight, French ambassador's weekend trip to Bamenda ignites Ambazonian's dissent amidst controversial development and decentralization agenda. Tensions rise in Bamenda as French ambassador visits sparks serious outrage. Meanwhile, in South Africa, Jacob Zuma's resurgence and the battle for electoral dominance is a topical issue on our African news. And of course, millions more to go as Trump's legal expenses as Biden and Democratic Party expand campaign cash. Well, that's on the foreign scene. Now let's get the news in full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Ambazonian as a people has a strong culture that forbids evil acts. And typically, there are some actions and practices that are taboos in the Amazonian community or environment. These practices send bad signals to even generations unborn. But we believe that this senseless war has increased the practice of such evil and unrefined practice. It has given so much room for infiltration. Precisely 2 weeks ago, we reported that a Yaoundé Enam graduate butchered his own mother and packaged her in a suitcase. We asked, is it occultism overtaking the youth of today or the adversity of the war? While you're trying to answer that, this is where we'll begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. We have Barrister Base here in the house. We also have Commander Fortam in the house as well. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Ungi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Taking a look at the details of this report, this very sad report that got to Undaunted says a student at the University of Bamenda, Faculty of Economics and Management Sciences, FEMS, has attempted to rape his own mother at Mile 6 in Queen Bamenda local government area. The report buttresses that the young man who on several occasions had wanted to convince his mother to go to bed with him to no avail resulted in using force on his own mom on Thursday, April 18th, 2024. This act is quite strange, as obvious as it is, and can only be a practice of La République du Cameroon. You would agree with me that it's only a people with a dysfunctional life and society that can attempt these very, very extreme acts. Well, according to the source, in the evening when the mother of this said boy was dressing up for her choir practice, according to reports, the young man dashed into her room and tried to forcefully rape her. Well, the mother screamed and alerted neighbors who came out and got hold of the attempted rapist, and he was taken by the police after the colonial police, to be precise, after a call was made by quarter members following the heavy beatings that was meted out on him.
Well, it is said that a young man owns an expensive car and has a gang of friends whom the public calls scammers. The phenomenon of young boys of very small ages owning cars in Bambili is becoming rampant, and many of them spoil the girls as well in the area. Many of those girls have been destroyed by these gangs. Well, the truth is, Ambazonians are being invaded. All of this is as a result of strange cultures coming into Ambazonia. Report has it that in time past, this could be a normal culture in La Republic de Cameroon, especially amongst the Bulubetis. All of these can be said to be infiltration of the culture and nothing else. There is no sanity in the Ambazonian environment presently. Either we're reporting drug abuse, rape, or incidences like this. This is why we need an Ambazonian government where its leadership can build the perfect Ambazonian culture where the strict moral values will be respected. The Ambazonian State Army for a long while now has been efficient and effective and reliable as well. In terms of success, we know that Bui's ASA has been nicknamed a place of no return. That's because of their high resistance to colonial La Republic de Cameroon imposition on the people of Ambazonia. The Bui's FM led a selected squad from the intelligence forces of Combo Center and the Black Forest Warriors of Mbiame to the Lion's Den itself, which is their Mbiame Brigade. The fierce battle is said to have left at least 4 gendarmes neutralized, while it is believed at the moment the brigade commander, who has been a pain in the neck on the Mbiame civilians, to be amongst them.
Well, reports confirm that the Bui County, the land of no return for colonial La Republic occupier forces, says on Sunday, just yesterday, April 21st, 2024, was another black one for the encroaching La Republique genocide forces. And it is believed that the colonial La Republique brigade commander for Mbiami might be amongst the at least 4 gendarmes that were neutralized on Sunday afternoon by the Bui warriors of the Amazonian State Army. Undaunted sources through Scanning Media added that the no-nonsense ASA selected squads from the intelligence forces of Kumbo local government area, and the Black Forest Warriors of Mbiami to the Lion's Den itself, which is the Mbiami Brigade, and the battle took place at Cove Key in Mbiami.
The fierce battle is said to have left at least 4 colonial gendarmes neutralized, while it is believed that the brigade commander, who has been a thorn in the flesh of the Mbiami civilians, could be among the casualties. Well, he will be the second brigade commander neutralized in Mbiami in 2 years by the Bui Mighty Warriors. While it is not yet known if the ASA in Mbiami lost any of their elements, but then we'll get to give you the latest once we have the stories in full detail. Before we move on, we have Commander Fombat in the house, and I would like to get his, his thoughts on the fans here from the Bui Warriors.
Yeah, good afternoon at the studio. Good afternoon, fellow Ambazonians, and good morning, wherever you're watching us from. Thank you for giving me an invite to this very, very important update on the Bui incident. Yesterday, there was an update that I presented on my live show of the movement of the terrorists towards either Bui, Ngokutunja, and the boys were alerted and were advised to lay ambush. I think that ambush yielded a lot of fruits, and we can now see and hear updates coming from Bui that the Bui County Ambazonian State Army, under the command of General Pino and General Mad Dog, carried out an attack which killed the Colonial Brigade commander and at least 4 other gendarmes in Biame. The squad from the intelligence forces of Kumbo and the Black Forest Warriors of Mbiame went right into the Mbiame Brigade. The battle was fierce, and those killed were known for constantly harassing the population. This is the 2nd brigade commander that is being neutralized in the past couple of years. So we say kudos to the Bui warriors, the Ambazonian State Army of Bui County.
Commander Fombat.
Over to you. Can you get me?
Yeah, we can actually. All right, thank you for that wonderful analysis there on the matter on the ground. I would have just asked another question, but I think we have another report of concern that we would like you to give your takes on, except you have another question for
Yeah,
another
yeah.
film, okay?
Before we move on here, let's try to understand the ASA that they've been, should we say they've been doing a lot of successful deliveries this period. What can you say? How can you define or describe their health status at the moment?
Their health status, as I can say, though it comes with a lot of challenges, because this is a guerrilla war in which our boys, the state army, joined in the forest to threats that we all know. The most important thing that we must understand is their spirit. Are they still willing? Are they still committed? So, amidst other things, we can only encourage Ambazonian that it is up to us. It's either to lay our arms down and then draft, because we need them to be strong so that they can continue doing what they have to do on the ground. So, for now, we can assure the Ambazonian people and the international community, the interested parties, that we are at war and the war is still ongoing. The war that was declared on us by the genocider, Mr. Paul Biya of French Cameroon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Speaking of the health of the ASC on the home front, we brought this report. This is way back, but then I have to bring it because you weren't on the show that day. We want to get from a military perspective, so to speak, from your perspective. In the case of certain pseudo liberation groups like that of the ADF, it was in the news before, having certain lockdowns and certain other announcement made in Ambazonia that should not be respected, that the government of Ambazonia, led by President Sako, categorically kicks against. Due to fear, a lot of Ambazonians have to respect it because most times these people do not even fight for the people of Ambazonia, they fight against them. And because of the fear of losing their lives to these people who are against the cause of Ambazonia, they tend to respect this type of suffering in the name of a lockdown or whatever. They tend to respect it due to this fear. Is there something that you think the ASA, the Ambazonian State Army, can do to protect these people and to actually, give them certain freedom to go out about their day without getting harmed? Is there something the Ambazonian State Army can do, if you get what I said?
Yeah, I think I got what you said. One thing I will also encourage us is that we are in serious communication. The arm wing of the government is under serious strategies and serious communication. Our people on the ground, it's not that they are respecting the ghost town. It is just fear and intimidation.
Yeah.
That people fear that they might go out and get bullied or get raped or get killed and get a bullet, a gun wound bullet. This ADF of a thing, is a pest, it's a cancer in this struggle. And even their leaders and their blind followers, they know the havoc that they are committing and carrying out on the ground. There's no one in this struggle who does not know. Even the international community is aware, because the cry of our people, the cry of our pregnant women is getting to the limits. So we as a people, it is high time we come together and draw a strategy. That strategy is not for social media consumption. We will work on it and see what we can do to the best interest of our people. Thank you.
All right. Speaking of these kind of declarations made by pseudo liberation groups, we have heard the government stance from President Sako on colonial La Republic elections in Ambazonia. You have a mastery of what is happening on the ground. Are you confident that the Ambazonian State Army will be will enforce these laws, and are you sure that there will be no elections come 2025 in the Southern Cameroons?
There has never been any election in Southern Cameroon since Pobia declared this war.
Why do you
And
sound
everybody
confident?
can attest and everybody can attest to the fact that there has never been any election. And this time around is even going to be the worst because we are almost drawing to the end of this war. And anybody, like the president said, anybody who is maneuvering, playing around with voters' card, campaign ground is a target. You will make yourself an enemy, and an enemy must be targeted. So it has to be. Our people are called upon, they are warned to stay away from anything, any political campaign, because Ambazonia is a war. We don't have any political party in Ambazonia, and no one is supposed to be gallivanting or moving around the street in the name of campaign or in the name of elections. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you too. Well, like I said, there's another report would like you to react to because that is also talking about this pseudo Ambazonian, so to speak. We'll get into the reports and we should get back to you, Commander Fumbat. Thank you too. Well, in the war of liberation, Southern Cameroons have witnessed betrayal, deceit, loss of innocent lives, displacement, amongst others. But of course, it is always more stinging to have a fellow Southern Cameroonian cause pain and suffering to the rest of Ambazonia. Well, it is one thing to deal with all the hail and storm La Republic brings against the genuine struggle for liberation, and neither is it surprising to see the enemy act as an enemy. But seeing a brother act just like the enemy brings to a vivid correction that not all who are from the same roots are for the good of the tree. While a senior Ambazonian military official in La Republique has been implicated in the kidnapping of Ambazonian citizens in Duala, displaced citizens in Duala, demanding ransom from their families. Well, this criminal activity previously attributed to selected elements within La Republic's forces alone is now revealed to also involve high-ranking officials from origins of not just La Republique, but as well as the Southern Cameroons.
Well, a senior Ambazonian military official in La Republic de Cameroon has been indicted for the Duala police and military kidnappings of Ambazonian citizens and demanding ransom from their family members. While we believe this criminal practice specific to some small elements of the colonial La Republic de Cameroon gendarmerie or the occupier army, it is now discovered that it is a source of enrichment for high-ranking colonial La Republic de Cameroon and some overzealous Ambazonians, all in the center of a mafia network through the genocidal war, and themselves allies on the blood of innocent Ambazonians. Undaunted, wrongfully thought that it is only La Republic de Cameroon forces taking advantage of the ongoing war in Ambazonia and using it to commit more atrocities against the innocent civilian population of Ambazonia. But behold, a certain Bernard Mbo Tabala, former colonial La Republic de Cameroon commander of military security of Duala City, today commander of the Kibi Naval Base, a native of Santa local government area in the northern zone of Ambazonia, has been involved.
Well, reports add that at the break of the war, Tabala was commander of the military security in Colonial Duala, very close to the notorious La Republique dreaded Colonel Banqui Emily, in whose hands Southern Cameroon's Ambazonians today become victims, and not just any victims, but victims in thousands. Undaunted sources revealed that Tabala's role was to identify the quote, English-speaking, the Anglophone businessmen who fled the war and took refuge in the city of Duala, more specifically in the Bona Musadi quarter.
Well, it doesn't end there. After identifying Commander Bernard Mbo, would then send their crack team scaling barriers into home and handcuffing the occupants occupied of being those financing the Ambazonian fighters, commonly called Amber Boys, and quote, when they abducted these businessmen. The stories go, they pretend heading towards Yaoundé only to turn around and extort money, and these businessmen paid out 2, 3, 4, 5 million francs CFA in exchange for their release. One can now understand why some people don't want the war to end. Some people are taking advantage of the war. The corrupt, manipulative leadership from French neocolonialism and Bolubeti Yaoundé sit tight, chop no flog, using some of these issues to feed fat on an already suffering people.
Well, this revelation sheds light on the complex dynamics fueling the ongoing conflict, implicating not only La Republic forces but also elements of Southern Cameroon's origin, which further shows that it is one thing to be from Ambazonia and another to be Ambazonian. Well, those who are just from Ambazonian origin but live in La Republique and have La Republique's ideology instilled in them, especially that of its military, will certainly act no better than the terrorist military of La Republique. Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian War of Independence will certainly continue to expose the enemies no matter what tactics they use until Ambazonians get to Boya. Yes, like we told you, we just want to take one more session with Commander Fumbat. And to be sure that Barrister Timin Besia is in the studio as well to take a few questions from us. I'll hand the floor over to you, Commander Fumbat, and then I'll give it back to you, Barrister Timin Besia. You're welcome, by the way, Barrister Timin Besia. All right, Commander Fumbat, please go ahead. You heard the report. What is your take on this? How do you feel about this? And what do you think can be done about this?
The thing here is really sad to hear this unfortunate stories. You know, in the course of this struggle, we have individuals that have taken advantage of these stories to enrich themselves. Yeah. And the one unfortunate thing you see, you run across a group, 50% of those who are enriching themselves from this struggle are only our own people with Ambazonian blood. You know, Commander Tabala is an Ambazonian, born Ambazonian. The ADF who are taking advantage of this situation are born Ambazonians. If you look at the situation, what is happening in Momo, the manner in which the ADF is handling the Momo people, block a market, and you know, just causing mayhem, havoc, atrocities. There is a credit union. I have the video. A credit union has been broken in Jikwa, and the funds of those villages are under captivity. They have beaten under the legs of the fund, and the fund can no longer walk. One of them escaped in the course of this kidnap. I am still doing investigations, and when I conclude with the investigation, some of these stories will need to go out there for the people to know who are those behind these atrocities, who are those collaborators, because people like this are not different from La Republique du Cameroon. Let us be clear. We cannot be fighting for a people and at the same time we turn against and we are punishing the same people who are fighting. This is not a struggle. It is clear. If ADF and these two entities are no different, they are the same. The only thing they do is to render havoc so that the people can turn against the struggle. This is the agenda from La Republique. Whatever the so-called Tabala is doing, it will bear no fruits because it is just identification. La Republique just want to save image. At the end of the day, investigations will go nowhere. Tabala will be a free man, but the only thing is networking. It is Tabala is not by himself. It is a whole crew. It's a gang. It's a chain. Everybody benefits from it. This is not the first time we're hearing of our people being harassed in Duala, in Yaoundé, in everywhere in La Republique du Cameroon. People have taken advantage because they think that this is another way to milk the cow. So they are taking advantage and milking the cow to get dry. We are taking note, especially this born blood Ambazonian who I've said and I will say it several times. It will come a time and in a day where these people will lack words to apologize. They will search the dictionary and they cannot locate where they can use the appropriate word to convince the people and tell them we are sorry. Because at this point in time, when we get to Boya, there will not be, I'm sorry will not be, the type of punishment that will be given, even the courts will not be able to judge. Let us be clear because our people are suffering today and some are taking advantage of this situation and killing those they are protecting. not excluding Tabala and the other ones that are in the network system. Thank you.
Thank you to Barrister Fru. To follow up with that, what would you have the Amazonian State Army do when such proxies and enablers choose to not only undermine Ambazonia's sovereignty, but actually kill the peoples of Ambazonia? I know this particular scenario is happening in Duala across the nation, and according to what we heard from Dr. Martin Mungwa, Amazonian State Army, they're trained professionally not to go across another nation to invade or war for any war. But then what would you have the ASA do within their powers for the people of Ambazonia?
Yeah, what I will wish the ASA do is to try to stop this. But since we don't have the actual instruments and we are fighting a genocidal war, and within which there are too many actors and too many faces, so we cannot engage a war in different fronts. Yeah. I am not saying that they cannot stop it. Where they can get to it, let them get to it and stop. Where they think that it is far-fetched and risky, they rather concentrate to kick away La République du Cameroon. At the end of the day, what we need is when we take our territory, we will get these evidences come up but automatically. Nobody will force this truth to come up. People will come with testimonies. We, as a people, will deal with these individuals squarely. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commander Foodbat, for joining on in the show tonight. But with this part, we'll just have to let you go for the show. But before that, let's get Barrister Team Mbesia's take on this particular report. I'm sure, Barrister Team, you got to hear the whole story.
Thank you for having me. Thank
it's always a pleasure.
The first man for all his contributions. So I will make a rundown in a few sentences. We started with the Bui being a land of no return. And I remember the president had made a statement sometimes. This battle is not going to be won on all fronts at the same time. In all wars, there's a pivotal moment in one front that determines the fate of the whole war. If that be we will be grateful. And as a reminder, maybe we don't know, some of us are so young. At least if you do history, you probably have heard the history of Napoleon. Napoleon was a leader in France who created what they call the Napoleonic Empire in Europe. He captured countries, Belgium, Germany, Holland, by war, until he came to Belgium, and the last battle was fought there in 1815, on the 16th of July, 1815. In that town called Waterloo, that's what they call Waterloo. Sometimes when you are defeated, they tell you find your Waterloo. That is, you find the end of their struggle. That's where Napoleon was crushed in Belgium, in the town called Waterloo. And all his forces in Europe, starting from Germany, Holland, and other places of Europe that he had captured, fell. And so if we take this to the Ambazonian struggle, to encourage our fighters, if you are fighting, if there's something going on, it concerns all of us. If that will be the Waterloo of Yaoundé, so be it. So don't be discouraged that they are not fighting here or there. Waterloo, we might be the Waterloo of Ambazonia, of Yaoundé. And so be encouraged to be there. Then you ask one question, which I want just to supplement. Whether the ASAs are going to enforce the no-election campaign. They could, but that's not even the weapon that we have. The weapon we have to use, there are people whom should know. It's not a gun. It's just your self-determination. Elections are voluntary. Nobody forces you from your house to go and vote. Nobody forces you from your house to go and register. So just stay home. We don't need somebody to come with a gun to tell you not to go. So that is what it is. Then, fast forward on this Tabala and the rest. So what you see going on with Tabala is just the tip of the iceberg. But since Tabala is a trained military man, He's a very senior official in the military, looks like in the Navy. He's doing that as an Anglophone, and most of them, as they call them, are Anglophones. But it is a culture in the Cameroon security forces, the culture of extortion, the culture of stealing from victims. I don't imagine any village in Ambazonia, because they have stationed their troops everywhere in every single village. If you go to every single village, they are there. And they came to my own village like any other village. After they extorted the money and people ran away, they had nothing to steal. What did they do? They killed their goats, pigs, and fowls and ate. That is theft. When they are deployed, they have money to feed themselves. When they extort people, eat people's cows, eat people's dogs, even. That is military extortion. It is the military doing that. So their training brings them up to steal, to extort from the citizens. Yes, we are complaining about Tabala because it's only there in white. What of the other, who in Ambazonia, for example, since this war, we say that he has not been arrested in Kale Kale, in Kumba, in Kambe, in Wum. They come and sweep everybody around, take it to their camp for a bribe. You give 10,000, 5,000. If you are the poorest woman in the world, give 500. That is the war economy which is encouraged by Yahweh. In fact, when you go there, if you travel in Ambazonia, you go a step 10 yards on the road, you find a control there. There's a control of the military. They have never brought anybody to any court for violating any crime. That control there is just extort money from you. Unless you forget, last year or the year before last, remember that child that was killed in Boya? Was shot dead, was going to school. Why? Because the mother has refused to stop and give them 2,000 francs. They killed the child. And so extortion is the recipe of the Cameroon army.
Actually, Barrister Tim, and you're so correct about that. You're so correct about that. What makes it even worse is what makes it worse is that these are displaced people who already just lost everything in the southern Cameroons, thinking they could find a safe haven in La République, only to be extorted by their supposed own, who turned out to be more for La République. Well, Barrister Tim, we have another report, which is actually the main focus for tonight. It is a report that it is burning in our hearts, and we want you to just expatiate more on this and give us your thoughts about it, because it is something that has been happening for decades and decades, and it is happening now, and it is affecting even the Ambazonian region, and it is a call for concern. When we say it is burning in our heart, it is a report of concern, and we want you to certainly talk about that more extensively. But we'll get into the report right now. We'll be right back. Well, the notion of François-Afrique epitomizes the intricate and enduring legacy of French colonial imperialism in Africa, functioning as a clandestine agency that maintains a neo-colonial grip, especially exemplified through the Franco-Cameroon hegemony. This relationship has historically dominated the dynamics between France and its former colony, La République du Cameroun, but its perplexing, confusing extension into southern Cameroon, also known as Ambazonia, raises significant concerns about France's encroachment on sovereignty and its implications for this non-former French territory. Over a recent weekend, the French ambassador's visit to Bamenda, the epicenter of the conflict between the two Cameroons in Ambazonia, ignited concerns surrounding France's persistent intrusion into the sovereignty of southern Cameroons. Ambazonians perceived the ambassador's agenda, which touted the highly contested notion of decentralization, as a blatant attempt by France to recolonize and assimilate their nation, thereby annihilating the distinct identity and governance of Ambazonia. Well, it is critical to acknowledge that southern Cameroon's Ambazonia was never under French colonial administration, nor was it a United Nations trusteeship territory governed by France. Thus, France's involvement in the socio-economic and political affairs of southern Cameroon remains an enigma, contrary to historical precedents and legal frameworks that dictate the sovereignty of nations. The term France-Afrique describes the intimate yet controversial relationship between France and its former African colonies, characterized by political, economic, and military ties. This relationship, while ostensibly cooperative, has been widely criticized for perpetuating a form of neocolonialism that undermines the sovereignty, self-determination, and development of African nations. Within this context, the Franco-Cameroon hegemony specifically pertains to France's dominant role over La République du Cameroon, influencing various facets of Cameroonian society, including politics, economy, and culture. France's involvement often results in significant sway over political decisions and economic policies in La République du Cameroon, effectively demeaning its independence and constraining its pursuit of autonomous policymaking. Given France's historic ongoing interventions in its former colonies, the issue at hand extends beyond mere diplomatic relations. It questions the ethical and legal boundaries of sovereignty and self-determination. The controversy surrounding the French ambassador's visit to Ambazonia highlights not only the persistent shadow of colonialism, but also the glaring need for former colonial powers to recognize and respect the sovereignty and autonomous development parts of African nations. Thus, in addressing the legacy and continuation of France-Afrique and its manifestations, like the Franco-Cameroon hegemony, the paramount question remains: why does France not respect the sovereignty of these nations, its former colonies? This question underscores the broader debate on neocolonialism and the imperative need for a reevaluation of post-colonial relationships, ensuring that they are forged on mutual respect, sovereignty, and equitable development. Oniwal, I understand that you have details of what provocative visit we're talking about. Talk to us about it, please.
Oh, well, so here is an interesting report written on Dissent. The Colonial Minister of Urban Development and Housing, Celestin Curtis, and the French ambassador to Cameroon, Thierry Marchand, visited Bamenda a few days ago to solidify a significant development agreement under the Colonial Capital Regional Program. Bamenda is set to undergo a substantial infrastructural transformation with a 30 billion francs investment facilitated by the French government through the C2D fund. During the visit, Colonial Minister Curtis and French Ambassador Marchand assured the Bamenda population of the imminent construction and rehabilitation of road infrastructure within the city. They expressed optimism regarding the program's potential to positively impact Bamenda, both in terms of physical infrastructure and communities' mindset. Minister Curtis talked of Bamenda's potential to become one of Cameroon's most beautiful cities and called for collaboration and support from the local population. She highlighted the employment opportunities that will arise from the project, particularly for marginalized groups like girls, women, and young people. Additionally, she ensured that priority would be given to the residents of parts of southern Cameroon in terms of employment opportunities generated by the project. The visit underscored the significance of the Colonial Capital Regional Program and its anticipated positive effects on Bamenda development. It emphasized the importance of local participation and collaboration in realizing the project's objective, marking a significant step towards the comprehensive transformation of Bamenda's infrastructure and socio-economic landscape. First question on any Ambazonian's mind right now is this development plan all in a bid to convince Ambazonians to stay under La République du Cameroon? Like to build the Southern Cameroon's road and create infrastructure so that they don't get to complain about anything anymore and forfeit their birthright for verbal promises of roads and employment.
Oh, that is a great question indeed. All we can see here is the French trying to influence the state of affairs in the southern Cameroons. But then taking a look at a captor who seems to be in this case a captive in the hands of France. This encroachment glaringly underscores the Franco-Cameroon hegemony at play. The signing of the Memorandum of Intent between the colonial minister of Urban Development and Housing, Celestine Ketcha-Curtis, and the French ambassador to Cameroon, Thierry Marquand, signifies France's involvement in all of La République's affairs, which may include the war La République waged on the southern Cameroons. But then we're just saying, the funding provided by the French government through the C2D French Debt Relief Fund demonstrates France's financial support for so-called infrastructure development in the southern Cameroons, say money that could have been taken from La République's financial reserve in France, fueled by Ambazonian oil. This financial assistance reinforces the historical ties between France and its former colonies, including La République du Cameroun, and suggests the continued influence in shaping Cameroon's development agenda. Furthermore, the emphasis on collaboration and local participation in achieving these projects' goal aligns with the concept of hegemony, where the dominant power, which is in this case France, works in collaboration with local authorities to implement projects that serve their own interest. Overall, this development reflects the ongoing influence of France in La République's development efforts, particularly in infrastructure projects like the one they claim to want to do in Bamenda, highlighting aspects of the Franco-Cameroon hegemony. Now back to the captor's captive, which in this case is Ambazonia, held captive by La République, who is held captive by France.
Well, the question we keep asking is, why is France interfering in the government of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonian? Why are they interfering? Specifically, Bamenda, one of the hot zones since the war waged on Ambazonia by Paul. It would not be wrong to think that France went to take charge of the strategy of La République de Cameroon's war on Ambazonia using the pretext of infrastructure development. It is no wonder why Ambazonia is so vexed at these unassertive colonial influence minister who would not stand up to defend their rights and territory from colonial invasion. Well, Barrister Ambazonian, this is the burning topic on the burner this evening. Share your thoughts with us.
It is actually burning. It could take us days, but I will try within the short period of time I will have. See, what France is doing to any place in Amazonia, they know exactly that they are just being wrong. They are just being intruders. They are trespassers. Not by imagination, but documentarily. We talked about French influence in Africa. They have so many colonies before the Second World War that created the United Nations and had in their charter that people should be independent. They had colonies, Congo, Central African Republic, Chad. These were all French colonies. But among the territories that they administered, that were never their colonies, was French-speaking Cameroon, which was the United Nations Trust Territory.
Okay.
It shared boundary with Ambazonian, English-speaking Cameroon, who was also a trust territory. The other territory was Togo. These were three trust territories. But France administered Togo as though it was its colony. France is intruding into Ambazonia knowingly that we have never been part of Frank Afrique. Because don't remember, we have been talking about resolution ABC concerning Amazonian independence. French government followed the same process at the United Nations to have independence. In 1959, in resolution 1349, the French government sponsored a United Nations resolution, resolution 1349 of 13 March 1959, asking that they should grant independence to French-administered Cameroon, which has become the Republic of Cameroon. That resolution was passed on the 13th of March. That resolution did not include Ambazonia. So they know that we have not been part of that. In 1946, the 13th of December 1946, France signed a trust agreement with boundaries of the territory they were to administer, which territory was called French Administered Trust Territory of Cameroon. They did not, the UK signed its agreement for Ambazonia, what we call Ambazonia today. So the boundaries were still well defined. France has been in the United, in fact, France is one of the 5 United Nations permanent members of the Security Council. They formed it. They formed the United Nations. And so the evolution of Ambazonia, just like the evolution of the Republic of Cameroon, is there with the United Nations resolution that were passed by France, were passed by the United Nations, sponsored one by France for the Republic of Cameroon. And the next one, 1852 of 1959, sponsored by the British. So the France knows exactly that they have nothing to do with Ambazonia. We never shared any territory with them. We were never part of them since 1915. So we have not been part of Ambazonia. They know that fact very, very well. So what are they doing all this? Why are they doing this? The whole idea, they created something which we have always saying France Afrique, which was an economic empire to preserve Africa, French-speaking Africa, for France. Because in that very 1959, before granting independence by this resolution, they had caused, for example, the government to sign economic pact with them. They caused all African French-speaking countries to enter the same pact, which mortgaged all what they had as minerals, all what they had as an economy to France. And so it is not new that France is doing all this. It is, I can describe it as a political fraud, absolute fraud. But what are they doing this? You think that they are coming to Bamenda to build infrastructure? If you know they want to build infrastructure, what do we need France for? It is exactly what they don't want us to hear. The French and their allies and other people don't know what our problem is. Our problem, the Ambazonian problem, is not infrastructure. Ambazonian problem is not education. It is not roads. No, Ambazonian problem, the question for Ambazonia, that can be defined in a short, simple way. It is a problem of assimilation. We do not join, if we ever join La Republique, we do not join them to come and dig roads in Bamenda for us. We do not join them to come and build schools for us. What more to build schools? What more to dig our own roads? If we need infrastructure in Bamenda, we don't need our own day. Talk less of doing France. We don't need France there to come and build infrastructure in Bamenda. That's diverting the attention. We don't need their infrastructure. They are not addressing the issue. If there is war, which is really there, it is not fighting because there is no infrastructure in Bamenda, in Boya, in Kambe, in Mampe. No, that's not what we are fighting for. So we don't need the infrastructure. If they are coming to Bamenda, is to appease people under the pretext they don't put infrastructure. Any type of infrastructure, they are missing the point. They are not missing the point. But what attracts me most from that picture I should just put it there. So you see that French, the ambassador of France, he is in Bamenda regalia, in the northern zone regalia. If these our brothers and sisters are parents in the northern zone, have not learned the lesson, let them be reminded. I say this because most of them who are chiefs are young, very younger than me. It's not long ago when the very Bamenda people, called it Bamenda, they made Paul Biya the font of fonts. Paul Biya wore that same regalia as the fonts. Paul Biya threw in that regalia as font of fonts, because all fonts are in the northwest, and promised to dig the Bamenda Ring Road and supervise it with his own eyes. The font of fonts has not dug the road. In fact, he has never even gone to Kabe. He has never seen the ring road with his eyes. And so they take this clothes and give it to this criminal called ambassador and show him courtesy. Yes, he could visit us if he wishes. I'll put that in my page. When we get France is welcome to visit us as a friend. Just like they are visiting other countries in the world. He should be welcome. We shall give him the decoration that he needs. Not the Bamenda people who gave him that thing to wear should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of themselves. What did he do to merit wearing Bamenda regalia? What did he do? He promised to come and do whatever nonsense. And he's standing there with that woman who's supposed to be of urban development. Well, the city didn't start today. She has never been there. The Pope here regime for the past 40 years. It did just 1/10 every year. They would have done 40-year projects in 40 years. And so coming and pretending, as they are doing, to address an issue that is not theirs is the issue. We don't need them. We don't need France for the infrastructure. But are they coming there for the infrastructure? Are they coming there for any development? The answer is no. In diplomacy, you read between the lines. They are coming there to Bamenda as symbolic, trying to bring the peace, trying to end the war, which is hitting at them. They don't go out for nothing. They are thinking that if they can do this, this will appease some people. Not digging the road. If they can make that appearance, more people in Bamenda dancing, because traditional dances and dance. They are giving money to buy beer and drink. And chiefs perhaps are giving some money to organize this for them. So they think that if they can do this to stop the war, which is hitting part of them. The other I can say is it's not going in Bamenda for 2 weeks, for 2 years, for 3 months. It will not have stopped the death of their gendarmes in Bui. And so you are missing the point, Mr. Ambassador. Go back. Go even just open your phone and Google Ambazonia, Google Cameroon, and see that we are not part of your Cameroon. Have your embassy in Yaoundé. We have our own capital. We wanted to fight France. So France wanted to visit us as an independent country. If we welcome, they will come to us on our terms. If they want to come to us and dig roads or dig boreholes, which we don't need, they will tell them the conditions. And we're going to dig boreholes.
But
So
Mbesia, let me come in there a bit. Politically speaking, or should we say structurally speaking, do you think that these visits play any pivotal role in the present struggle of freedom by Ambazonians?
I believe very strongly that it will play any role. If anything, as I just said, Ipobias, the president of the so-called Kingdom, Ipobias crowned the throne of Ipobias taken as the president of the United Cameroon, whatever he called it, to dig and supervise the which is the Bamenda Road North and so on. What will make somebody so stupid to believe that the ambassador of France is going to cause anything there? Zero. It is political manipulation. It is political machination. And I was coming to say that they are trying to end the war. That's why you find even this abroad. They can give money to anybody if you promise to end the war. They end even a ghost town, which are not paying for it to be organized. They will spend every money. They will kill everybody to stop ghost town. It is hurting them. The war is becoming unbearable for them. These are signs of frustration. Again, anyone who purported to join them, they have never fulfilled a single promise. The ring road that they talk about all the time.
Yes.
Yes. Let me just tell that. The road that they're talking about was never conceived by Yaoundé. It was a ring road conceived by the government in Buea. Why would they come to Bamenda to do infrastructure in town. 40 kilometers from Metezam to Santa. Where was France? Why did not down the road? And you where they will come and put billiards to do infrastructure inside Bamenda town.
Of course, you already know that when it comes to topical issues like this. Oh, Barrister Ambazonian, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
back.
speaking of what I was going to ask in regards to what you just said and the topic in general, we've seen that Ambazonia, well, not just this year, in times past, but let's say particularly this year, we've been really loud, and the news and the story of Ambazonia is going out to the world, and Ambazonia is making more noise on the international scene, getting diplomatic minds and people who hold a lot of value in terms of international diplomacy, getting these people to be involved with the ongoing struggle for liberation in Amazonia. I think this noise that Amazonia has made internationally has, I could assume that it has caused some sort of jitter for both La République du Cameroon and France, and it's sort of making them come to Bamenda now to bring out these story of trying to deal with the marginalization, because that is what has been happening. They're trying to push the whole struggle of Amazonia to look like it is just a case of marginalization, when in the real sense it is a case of stolen independence. So would you classify these as trying to quell the idea of Southern Cameroons being marginalized, so the eyes of the world are once again taken away from the plight of Ambazonia? Would you classify this as that?
No, let me say this. Say, the president has said questions that diplomatically so much is being done. So I would like to differ, just correct the line. Well, not just noise. The steps that we've taken at once causing them to do. And what France is doing, we just did last week, it's just one of the several things that we've seen publicly. Many other things are going on diplomatically. The ambassador will not leave to go to Bamenda or to Kambe or to Banso without the directives from Paris. Remember, in 2017, when the war started, it is Pope who want to give account to Macron. It is Macron who instructed him to come and hold the Ghana national dialogue. It has not worked. And see, the French are coming back. They have seen it not working. They don't need to be told a lie. It's not working. The second element, which I say, is not just France alone. If you have followed the news, you find that today there is from Washington D.C. in Cameroon, a senior diplomat. It's on Facebook, it's on Twitter. He's visiting Cameroon. One of the items that he had just visited Ngongo today, I saw you on the news there. What has he discussed with Ngongo? Among the other items that the senior American diplomat who went to Cameroon officially today, he reports that he met Ngongo and discussed in court human rights in Cameroon. Did you expect him to say that he discussed Ambazonia? Certainly not. But can you go to Cameroon today and discuss any item on human rights without starting with what is going on in Ambazonia, even in terms of human rights? The report is just there. The death of their military. It's not marginalization. Then this will take us back to what I just said a few minutes ago. The issue of Ambazonia is not marginalization. Marginalization means that they have left institutions of what is this. What assimilates you? You lose, if somebody assimilates you, takes you into slavery, you lose your children, you lose everything that you have, you lose your husband or your wife. Somebody kidnaps you, you lose all those privileges, you lose rights. They are no privilege, they are right. They are trying to coin the thing out. That's why they are coming, pretending to come with development projects. So Bamenda may look like Duala, or Bamenda may look like Yaoundé, No, that's not what we are after. Again, let people take this book. We did not join the only if we never joined them because we wanted them to come and become a Bamenda for us or any other town. We did not join them because we wanted to become a dig road for us. Right now they know Ambazonia has more money to dig roads of their own and borrow themselves on the roads. So let the French and whoever sympathize with them define the problem properly. It's not marginalization. It's not underdeveloped assimilation. What we have chosen is what wanted to assimilate them. That's a swallow. And on occasion, that has been their problem, selling what they call reunification. Reunification. So now if you are complaining in Bamenda, for example, they say, well, if Bamenda was complaining about the city, they say, but Babusha has not gotten the same thing, but we can come and give you infrastructure like Duala, so they also look like your own. Because they have ignored you, they have been marginalized with the development. That is not what it is about. It is their attempt and content to assimilate us. And since they cannot assimilate us because they admit the fail, what are they doing? They kill everybody who resists their assimilation. The pattern. The problem is resisting the assimilation. So it's not assimilation, and it is possible we should all take this nonsense language. Again, what is going on? It's a combination. Much of it has been the French and what is going on. The Americans they know national dialogue did not work. If it worked, why would protest? Why would the French ambassador? Did they go there on the contact? They were there in armored cars. What did you know the entire car got to Bamenda? They were there in armored cars. So you don't need. We are living in the United States. They live their own day. They are not living there. He knows that the thing is not working. The kind of national dialogue which he recommended has not worked. They all admit that. He has written back to his father in Paris. And remember, this is a military guy. This is a military guy. In addition to performing his diplomatic missions duties in their own day, he's playing the military role. He's going to do an evaluation of the military in this war. That's the only war that is affecting France. And he has realized it's not working. He's in Bamenda in a dual capacity ambassador and the military proconsul, the military advisor to Yaoundé, to say it does not work. To tell them,
But Barrister Besia, having the French ambassadors purportedly trying decentralization in Ambazonia concepts, they have not been able to establish now, owing to the fact that they have never reacted to the rights of the suffering because of the war. Now, conclusively, do you think that this is France, the word, we have defeated them and we own the land? Or do you think that they are trying to probably test?
You cannot be telling you cannot be telling the world that they have defeated Ambazonia when the ambassador is coming to Bamenda in an armored car. They cannot tell anybody. To me, if you want my personal opinion, it's an acknowledgement. Let them not the war. Because from 2017, when Pobia declared the war will last 2 weeks, he was declaring it with the consent of Paris, with the full support of France and the allies. It does not work. It's just an acknowledgement that it does not work. You cannot say this out as a victory. And the infrastructure in Bamenda, I would request that they do it. So it's not a victory. In fact, if another way it is an acknowledgement of defeat. Because, again, I've said just a few minutes ago, the Grand National Dialogue was the recognition. The DDR was the recognition. The regional councils was the House of Chiefs, Premier House of Chiefs. These were all known as what? And among the people, the only was somebody I mean of Eli Smith was the spokesman of this, talking to people, the fighters, the money, giving the money to go and do it. List.
Oh well, we think we are having some technical hitches there, and this is a very interesting topic. Well, if we are losing connection with Barrister Mbesia, you already know that you're going to get every bit of this and even more on today during Ambazonian today here because we have these in check. I will definitely bring you more of these come Saturday. But here we have African Report here, and right after African Report, we'll bring you the news across the globe.
World Health Organization reports that approximately 15 million cities requires immediate health aid. And this is news from Africa. Sudan that has recorded 14,719 fatalities, with 8.2 million people displaced, as per the latest update from the United Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Well, despite international organizations actively involved in providing assistance and awareness of the situation increasing globally, Sudan's long persistent war seems to not be near. While we hope international bodies put in more effort to bring an end to the war in Sudan that is increasing in its number of fatalities and those who need health aid, amongst others around the region, we also hope targeted intervention to address the health and humanitarian needs of the Sudanese people are put in place to ameliorate their suffering.
Well, former South African President Jacob Zuma, now leading the Mkuchu Mizwe party, is gaining popularity, particularly in KwaZulu Natal ahead of the upcoming elections. However, the ANC is contesting the use of MK's party name, which echoes the ANC's former armed wing. The elections are expected to be fiercely contested, with the ANC facing pressure amid economic challenges and declining support.
Well, UK Prime Minister pushes for expedited deportation. He aims to expedite deportation flights to Rwanda within 10 to 12 weeks, aiming to resolve a deadlock in Parliament over this policy before an upcoming election. Sunak emphasized the urgency of the conference, asserting the readiness of commercial charter planes to transport asylum seekers. The bill facing amendments from the House of Lords aims to deter illegal migration across the English Channel by sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. Opposition persists with criticism of illegal across the
Is in a criminal trial in Manhattan court. Save America, the political action committee that has underwritten much of Trump's legal expenses, spent nearly $3.7 million on legal related expenses in March. Nearly $3 out of every $4 is collected. According to a filing on Saturday, on Saturday night with the Federal Election Commission, and the committee ended this month with an additional $886,000 in outstanding legal bills, most of which were owed to Robert and Robert, a firm that has represented Trump and his family in a fraud case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James. That case ended in February with a $3 judgment against him, not counting interest.
Well, in Israel, an Israeli F-16 fighter jet fires a rampage air-to-ground rocket in an outdated photograph. Well illustrative, an Israeli F-16 fighter jet fires a rampage air-to-ground rocket in an undated photograph. The missile used in the alleged Israeli attack on a military base near the Iranian city of Ahan overnight Thursday to Friday was a locally developed air-to-surface missile dubbed the Rampage, according to a Hebrew media report. The Cannes broadcaster reports that the Rampage was identified from visitors the extent of the damage caused in the attack. The 4.7-meter, 15-foot rocket can also travel at supersonic speed, making it difficult to detect and intercept using air defense systems such as the Iron Dome.
Meanwhile, in Sahel, South United States will hold their first round of talks in Hawaii this week on sharing the cost of the upkeep of U.S. troops sanctioned there. Sahel's foreign ministry said earlier today talks will take place in Hawaii from tomorrow day to Thursday, led by Lee Wo, South Korea's chief negotiator, and the U.S. counter in their stats. The ministry said in a press release, it will be their first meeting since Sahel and Washington named the two diplomats early last month to lead the negotiations on determining how much Sahel should shoulder for the stationing of the 28,500 strong U.S. forces in Korea.
Well, Netanyahu has vowed to reject any U.S. sanctions on army units. U.S. Israel Netanyahu vows to reject any U.S. sanctions on army units. It was 1999. The Netzah Yehuda Battalion is a special men-only unit where ultra-Orthodox Jews serve. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to reject any sanction on the country's military after reports that the U.S. plans to cut aid to one unit. In the Prime Minister's voice, I will fight it with all my strength. He said this on Sunday. Earlier, the Axios news site said the U.S. would target Israel's Netzah Yehuda Battalion over alleged human rights violations in the occupied West Bank. The BBC and newsmen understand any move would come under a U.S. ban on aid to foreign units credibly implicated in violations. When asked last week about reports that U.S. military aid to the Israel Defense Forces units could be cut over allegations of human rights abuses in the occupied West Bank, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, I've made determinations. You can expect to see them in the days ahead. That is all on the Global Report.
And with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted. But before we go, let's give you the highlights of our major reports. Well, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that
Well, on Undaunted, we gave you the report of an attempted assault on a mother that raises cultural concern in Ambazonia, as for gendarmes who were neutralized over the weekend at the Battle of Rifen Ngami in Bui County, and the oppressed Ambazonians having Ambazonian-born military personnel in La Republic, the one who puts them in pain kidnappings and ransom takings of Amazonian refugees in Duala. Also, we brought to you the French ambassador's weekend trip to Bamenda that ignites Amazonian dissent amidst controversial development and decentralization agenda. Tension really rose in Bamenda with this French ambassador's visit.
Well, we also told you from the African scene that Jacob Zuma's resurgence and the battle for electorate dominance is taking its place in South Africa. Meanwhile, millions more go to Trump's legal expenses, Biden and Democratic Party campaign cash. And that's it for tonight on Undaunted. Bringing to the news and top stories on behalf of Stursman and the entire Undaunted crew. Say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC on the TV News. Good night and God bless you.